Hello World Explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, we shall be looking on how the country of Germany is playing huge catch-up in the continent of Africa. We would explore this from different perspectives, that Germany is planning a new strategy into Africa to compete with China. We shall explore this also from development perspectives and to the reason why the country of Germany has begun to pay attention in the amazing continent of Africa. So without any more delay, let's just dive straight into it. In considering Germany's intention to replace the Marshall Plan with regards to the African continent, with this new strategy to keep Germany in the race for Africans against China, the race has begun in different aspects, looking at Turkey, China, Russia, the United States of America, and other countries that are beginning to vie for position in the continent. With a new strategy for African continent, Germany is preparing to compete against China in search of energy, raw materials, and new markets. As Africa has been labeled over the years to be a dark continent, which has never been the case, which is remembered for its poverty, the capital problem, drought, and never-ending domestic turmoil makes Africa's struggle for industrialization difficult, but the rich mineral deposits and young population continue to attract attention of development countries. This increased interest in the continent also leads to an increase in competition between major countries like the United States, France, China, Germany, and other countries around the world, including Japan, South Korea, and a lot others that are vying for position to secure a piece of the continent. It is worth noting that China, Turkey, Italians, and Indian investment in African countries have increased in recent years. On the other hand, some countries such as Germany are developing new strategies to increase their presence in the continent. However, only 1% of the investment of over $163 billion made by German companies in foreign countries last year was in the African continent. In 2021, around 76% of the German capital went to European countries, while the Americas ranked second with 9% and Asia took the third place with 13%. One of the prominent financial papers in the Republic of Germany, the Handelsblatt, once reported that the country intends to replace the Marshall Plan with Africa, with a new strategy to keep Germany in the race for the African against China.
Your predecessor Angela Merkel put a focus on Africa. What does it feel like for you now to touch down here for the first time as German Chancellor?
Africa is the continent next to Europe, and it is of essence that we work intensely to have very good relations with all the states in Africa. And also it is important that we develop our relations with all the democratic states on the globe. Democracy, the rule of law, questions that are important for us are not just something that is linked with the so-called Western countries. It's also very important if we look at all the countries in the world. So South Africa is a democracy, Senegal, Niger, and this is why I visited them and why I think it is important that we continue to work together, saying that the world has a good future if we cooperate, if we understand that there will be a lot of very relevant states in the future, in the 50s of this century, and that we should now make it feasible that there is a good cooperation, that we can create a multilateral world.
Looking forward, if you consider the strategic move, looking on how Germany intends to counteract the presence of China in the continent, why China has repeatedly made use of its investments and leading power in Africa by getting the country of its continent to vote in its favor at the United Nations, Germany's new draft strategy for the continent also identifies Turkey and Gulf states as rivals as well as China and Russia. If you look at what Germany aims to protect itself against global crisis by strengthening its soft power in the African continent, the draft strategy stresses that those countries are investing in infrastructure, making efforts to have access to raw materials and markets, aiming to increase their political influence. Meanwhile, most German economic experts are beginning to recognize and recommending to the government that Africa has huge potential to help Germany in terms of skilled workers and energy transition. Germany also wants to promote green hydrogen production in Africa and the development of local hydrogen economies to contribute to its national hydrogen strategy. While China has a say in raw materials such as cobalt used in electric car batteries, German companies do not have direct access to such critical materials. Moreover, the country plans to seize private investment opportunities in Africa, particularly in the field of infrastructure and energy. The presence of important infrastructure and energy companies strengthens Germany's hand and gives it a leading role amongst EU countries that are interested in the continent of Africa. But the question here is, how does Germany plan to execute this strategy in the continent? As many African countries become more dependent on China in terms of loans, there are concerns that these loans burden on African countries hamper urgent need for investment. Germany plans to make it easier for African countries to pay their debts by providing budgetary support. On migration, the country plans to make a clear strategy change. The new strategy will also focus on supporting legal immigration options from African countries in the future. For this purpose, advice centers in African centers will also be turned into migration and development centers. This will focus on regular workers' migration to Germany and Europe. This also contributes to the development of implementation of Skilled Immigration Act. In this area, you will consider that the African continent is 3 times the size of Europe and 85 times the size of Germany in terms of surface area. The continent, consisting of 54 countries, hosts 3,000 different ethnic groups and languages. Beside rich oil and gold reserves, Africa has the largest agricultural land in the world, and more than half of its 1.4 billion people is under the age of 30. The continent's population is expected to double by 2050, but this is thought to have both advantages and disadvantages. The question here is that, has Germany realized the importance of the African continent? Are they intending to get to the continent to play catch-up or to take the market lead? But the question here is, there has been too much talk that most countries in the continent are open for investment. However, most African countries also need to regulate their operations and systems to encourage foreign direct investment in different ways. Germany is a country that has really focused on the internal development and expanding its businesses and companies within the European Union and also in some Asian countries. It should, however, be noted that Africa's market potential has not gone unnoticed throughout the year. As a matter of fact, you could also say that the exact opposite, as foreign investors and businesses have taken note that they have become fully aware of the sort of wealth and the continent of Africa has potentials to generate. As a result, Europe's most successful economy, Germany, plans to make huge investments on the continent come 2023. According to Reuters, that ran a poll on members of the German African Business Association, and the results showed that 43% of those businesses are planning to increase their investment in the continent of Africa. The poll also showed that 39% of the association members aim to keep their spending levels in Africa on a stable rate. The survey showed that 56% of the companies viewed their business activities in Africa in 2022 positively, and further 7% rated them very good in terms of their own analysis. The majority of companies want to expand their activities in the coming years in Africa. This decision is heavily influenced by the Russian-Ukrainian war, as Germany plans to reduce its reliance on Russia's liquefied natural gas. As a matter of fact, the poll showed that the areas with most of those businesses plan to invest in areas such as the green hydrogen and liquefied natural gas. As a result of this, countries like Namibia and other gas-rich countries will benefit in terms of different investment. The field of green hydrogen and liquefied gas will give a new impetus to many countries in the continent of Africa. This has shaped Africa in several ways. Countries like Germany are beginning to pay attention in different ways as well. Africa has huge potential in different areas. The question here is, will Africa be able to accommodate all of this competition from China, from United Arab Emirates, from Japan, from also Turkey, the United States, the Netherlands, and a lot of other areas? Africa has been the least in terms of German investment and development in different areas. You could count the number of German companies that are currently in Africa in terms of development and infrastructure in several ways. I think that with these German options looking to drive into the market, This is going to wake up countries like China and the United States that Africa is not what it used to be before, that Africa has transformed. The continent has lots of potentials in several areas. Despite its huge population, Africa possesses huge opportunities according to McKinsey and other research institutions like Afrobarometer in the continent. The continent also provides opportunities for new market, growth, development, renewable energies in several areas. I think that with this option that Germany is continuing to move in the continent will wake up those other countries in the region and also other countries in the Middle East who are continuing to develop themselves and do business with Africa. Hopefully Africa does not feel too much congested in terms of business operation. We all shall be looking on how Germany will fit into this competitive race in the continent of Africa. We want to thank you for watching. Hopefully we've informed you with regards to why Germany has wake up from slumber and they are considering to move to the beautiful continent of Africa and to see what opportunities lie below their feet and how Germany can benefit in terms of the African growth and opportunity. We want to thank you for watching. We're looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.